Want to beat your mates at fantasy football? I've got a little secret for you.
Fantasy Football Hub provides the artificial intelligence, recommended transfers, expert team reveals, and more, all designed to help you win your mini-league.
Big beats.
If you don't win your mini-league, we'll even refund your membership. Sign up today for 50% off. Terms apply. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 3-for-1 Sky Fantasy podcast from Fantasy Football Hub. My name is Fergi. Paul, how is your Sky weekend going? So, I was going to say, so far it's actually finished.
Yeah, like pretty good. 99 points. I'm pretty happy. I say I'm happy with my team. I don't think that's true. I'm happy with the moves that I made at the weekend. So they get me closer to what my optimal team would be. So yeah, I'm happy how that panned out. Moved up in rank to 23-ish K in my main team. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how things went. Yourself?
Well played, sir. Yeah, good. 103 points. Made a couple of moves. One plan. So I did plan Rashford to Rodri. I was kind of a bit stuck between Rodri and Diaz. I was really stuck between them. But went for Rodri, and I'm glad I did, obviously, because he got the goal. But looking after the game at the comments he made as well, he said that now that De Bruyne and Gundogan are kind of out or not play or have been sold or whatever, Kovacic is allowing him to bomb forward, and he's really enjoying it. So I think Rodri is, I know there's no essential player, but with multiple avenues to points, probably one of the most multiple avenues we've seen for a long time. He's looking pretty good at 9.4, and I made a bit of a last minute change, which I didn't really plan. But I wanted Diaz basically, and I was trying to work around all these different plots and plans to try and cleverly squeeze him in. I ended up taking out Saliba, which may be controversial, but I was looking at the next few fixtures for Arsenal, and just like Arsenal in general. So in the short term, Diaz had a 4-for-2 over him, but looking at Arsenal's next fixtures, Man United at home. So all their home fixtures are quite difficult, and all their away ones are a bit easier. But they've got United at home, Everton away, Spurs at home, Bournemouth away, Man City at home, Chelsea away. The next 6. So I just thought the way that Arsenal have been, I don't think they've looked that good. I'm not sure what Arteta is doing with them at the back. Really, all this messing around with Gabriel. So, and I really wanted Diaz, and yeah, we'll see. But there's a lovely hop-on point back on for Arsenal a bit later on if I need Saliba back. But we're happy. So, but yeah, 103 points, pretty decent. Rise to 10k, 3 transfers used. Pretty solid team. Got some thinking to do ahead of this weekend, which we'll touch on in a sec. Let's just have a look at the points from the weekend. Matty Cash top. 19 points with his 2 goals. Unbelievable performance there, really. Raheem Sterling.
Good at the hat-trick.
What's that?
Good at the hat-trick.
Yeah.
Good at the hat-trick.
Raheem Sterling, 17-pointer. Is he of any interest to you at all, Paul?
I think so, but now there's no good point to get back in on. Well, there is actually Sky Gameweek 6, so the 5th round of fixtures after the international break. I want to leave myself pretty open. That's why I didn't want to use a lot of transfers now. I think that Game Week 6 is a good time to restructure slightly teams.
Mm-hmm.
And Sterling could be someone that I'll look at that point in time. We'll see after the international break what's the deal with injuries. And by that point, we'll have 4.5 game weeks worth of data on each of the players as well. And I think that's a good time to kind of set yourself up for a period of time afterwards. So definitely someone that I'd be considering. I've got no definitive plans to get him in though.
I think their fixtures stiffen from kind of end of October. I think up until then they're really good, but then they do have a run of Arsenal, Brentford, Tottenham, Man City, Newcastle, 5 on the bounce, which is going to be incredibly tough. So I'm not convinced myself. I think that if you are going in after the break, you've only got really 4 fixtures, but yeah, we'll see. Casemiro, 16-pointer, looks pretty solid, pretty good, I think. 8 bonus points, so he got a lot there. Flipping heck, did a hell of a weekend. Gusto's an interesting one, 6.8. I think Reece James is due back in a few weeks, but if anyone did have a short-term punt on him, he looks to have done well. Obviously, got the 2 assists and looks pretty good. Pascal Gross, who we all kind of overlooked in the first half of last season, are we overlooking him again, or?
Well, interestingly, no. But I looked back at a screen grab after game week 2 last year, and again, I use that as a reminder if people don't have a relatively good start, or they think that the high number of a rank at a certain point in time means anything at this stage, which I don't at all. But as a reminder, I always send that screenshot. I won it from the position where I was like 14k after the 3 game weeks. You're 10k just now, so
I've won then.
You make an argument you're in a better position than I was last year. And the person with the most points in the whole game at that point in time last year was Pascal Gross.
Yeah. It was a really good goal. I think he switched positions a bit, how many from last year, but he still seems to just get the points. Only 6 bonus points as well. He's an underrated player in this game. I think I just think because of his position, you're never quite sure where he's going to play.
Yeah, you always worry about getting dropped, and he never seems.
He
to.
never seems to get dropped.
He just plays a different position when somebody gets signed or someone's in form in that position.
Next one, which we'll be chatting about a bit later, I'm sure. Jared Bowen, 8.8 million. West Ham had basically no possession again and scored another 3 goals, and he got. He's in the points again. We're going to talk about him a fair bit, I think. Rodri, we've already mentioned, just looks an absolute beast in this format. Bruno Fernandes turned up for owners, for those who went for him ahead of Rashford, 13 points. Just a couple others we go down. Moussa Diaby, 11 points, 8.1 million. I think he could be on our radars in a few weeks. Any thoughts on him?
Yeah, I think he looks great. And there will be a requirement. Well, not necessarily a requirement, but Villa go on a really nice fixture run as well. And just getting him in at 8.1 million. I think would tick over nicely if you didn't want to go up to Watkins. I think Watkins is 9.3, although he's returned 3 assists in 3 games as well. So I guess the argument could be that you double up on them as well. But there's a nice hop-on point for Villa. I think in the kind of 7th or 8th set of fixtures, it's going to start October time.
They play on a Sunday on Sunday, 22nd of October, but you can get on them earlier if you want.
Yeah, this is another reason why I didn't go fully in on Chelsea or fully in on City, and I know there's an argument that could be made that every season's different, and therefore playing aggressively, semi-aggressively with transfers at this stage is a viable option, and I'm definitely not dismissing that as an option. Just from my experience of playing the game, there's never really been a season where I think that it's paid off with not having the transfers left. But I'm looking at that run from Sky Game Week 6 onwards, and that setting your team, but also there's going to be a few hop-on points that I definitely want coverage from players. So I've almost got 6-7 loose transfers planned in my head that, whilst you could be setting up your team just now, I think when it comes to these games that you're probably going to want those players as well, and therefore going to be moving on. I do think that if I was using transfers still at this moment in time, it would be for long-term picks. I brought in Rodri at the weekend as well, and it's with the view that I won't be taking him out, and I'm not going to do 3-for-1s or 4-for-2s on him. He's sat locked in my team, and it's any other movement on the peripheral players, I'll be where it's at.
Yeah, agree. Ian Power in the chat says Villa will have fixtures moved to Sundays for the end of October. Obviously, we get the Europa and Europa Conference draws, don't we, soon? So yeah, that's a good point there. Thanks for that. Yeah.
They won't be in it though, because Hibs are going
to win 6-0 next Wednesday.
5-0 deficit.
Ian Power, you've been very presumptuous. Yes, there's a few other players on that list actually. Just before we move on, João Palhinha reminded us all of what he can do. What a player. Six tackles and the goal. He is a fantastic player. How he hasn't been snapped up, I will not know. Maddison is another one who looks really, really good. Thiago Silva and Christian Romero, who started last season off really well, and he's done the same this time. So Spurs are probably a bit more solid than we thought they would be. I think that everyone thought they would be a bit kind of Ozzy Ardiles end to end, but they were bloody good against Man United, and they were really good against Bournemouth as well, I think.
I was saying that the Man United should,
Bruno should have scored that header.
But yeah, they could have easily scored 3 goals, and you wouldn't have said that it would have been unfair in the first half. But I'm not fully disagreeing with you. I do think that they have been a lot more solid. And what you know is you're going to get passing bonus from the Spurs defenders as well, because they're going to play out from the back. I tweeted just a general question to the kind of Sky Twitter community on Saturday, seeing how many transfers people were planning on using over the weekend, and I saw someone, apologies if the name eludes me just at the moment in time, but the and paid off nicely for them. 10-pointer.
Did indeed. Just have a quick look at the top of the player total points. Rodri top 38, 17 bonus points in 3 games. It's pretty insane. Solly March, obviously blanked this weekend, but he's looked really good. Brian Mbeumo is up there. Christian Romero, so he's 4th at 28. Johan Visser. Joachim Anderson from Palace. I think we mentioned him in pre-season. Anderson. He's a really nice player. Saka 25, Vicario surprisingly I think 25, Haaland 25, Moussa Diaby we've mentioned before we go down. Transfers, average transfers remaining, top 5,000 45.1, top 1,000 43.4, top 100 41.5, and top 10 42. So they are rifling through those transfers there. We did have some really good questions actually around transfers. You're gonna have to excuse me. I'm gonna have to pick them out. Ian Parrin sent one in. I'm gonna have to find them now. I do apologise, everyone. I will find these now.
So Ian Parrin asks, how far away from your optimal Sky FF team at the moment in time? I had a look at my players, and I think I'm pretty happy with locking in kind of 5 or 6 of them. The other players I'm looking around, and we're going to speak about in a bit. We've got those Forest single captaincy days, and I know a lot of people scorned by the Morgan Gibbs White debacle would say that they were never going back or going to skip them. I don't think that the Taiwo Awoniyi bandwagon's going to slow down any, and based on his 9 goals in his last 7 games and scored in each of his last Premier League appearances, I don't think that I think he's going to be very popular, kind of 7.5 million, and maybe if Colwell isn't racking up the tiers and kind of pass in, that people might make the direct switch on there or moving on someone else. And there's no Friday games as well, so you've got the opportunity to play someone that weekend and then move on there. And I've got a few others mentioned, Mr. Diaby there. I need to sort out my goalkeeping position, which someone else asks about moving on Onana. And the only reason I've not moved Onana on yet, and probably won't do until after the international break, is I don't know who that I want.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
There was only 3 clean sheets at the weekend there, so I'm pretty sure that I'm going to. It's either Pope or downgrade to free up cash. And I know Forest are just in the process of signing another keeper, because Matt Turner could have been an option, because they're going to have a really nice fixture at some point coming up as well. I know people got Sam Johnson, and Palace are talking about signing Dean Henderson, or have signed Dean Henderson. And his place is going to be massively under threat as well. So yeah, I'd look to move on Onana, but I'm not going to do so this weekend, because I'm more keen to get a bit more info and really think about who it is I want to move him on to after our initial break. So there's a few players I still want to get in my team. So I'm happy with 5 of my positions, which sounds pretty downbeat, but I'm going to retain the other 6 and move them on as and when I get the fixture gains out of them. So I'm not in a rush. I'm not going to do any mad rush to move them on next weekend. I'm planning on using no transfers next weekend, and then I might use kind of like 2 or 3 on the first weekend after the international break, because at that point I think we've got enough information and we know who's likely to play in certain fixtures. We also don't know how teams are going to rotate with Europe as well. So Newcastle, like, they've just signed a £30 million right back. Like, is Trippier going to, like, Trippier looks great for those fixtures.
33 as well, Trippier. I didn't realise he was that old. He's 33 years old.
Yeah. And they've got position. They've just signed Lewis Hall left back. Not that I'd be looking at Burn, but that's kind of like they've got 2 players for every position now. I think Pope's probably the safest, and that's why I was considering him. But so 5 and then kind of 6 players, but I'm not in any rush to remove them.
I think for the second part of his question, or around rushing to get them in, I think what I've been looking at, the transfers I've been making are the long-term ones. So things like Rodri and Diaz are not just for even for City's run. You know, as long as they retain their place, which they should, they'll be in. So I'm planning to move, I think, to Bissouma on Saturday, which again is a very structurally based long-term transfer, just to get him in, because if he continues as he's been playing, he's going to be a darling in this format as well. So I think I'm not trying to rush to get to an optimal team. I think what I'm trying to, and again, not rush, but I'm trying to find the most opportune moment to move to the long-term players I know I'm going to want. So for me, that is, obviously Haaland. The keeper, I think, as you say, is up in the air. I think Colwell is probably one still who is, I think he's decent. I think we're going to see more than him. Rodri, Bissouma, Haaland, and one of Saka or Salah potentially, or Salah or Saka or Rashford maybe. But I think other than that, there's a lot of scope. I think Sanchez in goal as well, and I we'll only know if he's safe, obviously, after the window closes, because they've been looking at keepers. So I think there's that as well. When the transfer window closes, we're gonna know who's going to play, and Sanchez maybe another one. Flecken.
Flecken, yeah, I was going to mention Flecken looks really good, and what we're putting people. Well, there was 2 things I think putting people off at pre-season. One, he didn't look particularly great in a few of the games, but we know Brentford's transfer policy, and they know that the person closest to RIA and stats across all of the big leagues was Flecken, but also, like, it was Onana's price, wasn't it? Man United's fixtures looked better than what they've turned out to be in comparison. So yeah, I think I definitely wouldn't rule out moving to Flecken as well.
A couple of other transfer related questions. Julian Wardle, the seasonal question: value of a transfer. Do you think that those that use 2 or 3 transfers stole a proper march with a Chelsea block, more awards to come, or the long game still the strap line?
What's interesting is that we, and I'll include myself in this, are deeming Nottingham Forest at home an easy game. Forest have scored 5 goals in their first 3 games. I don't know that that's a locked clean sheet. Do I think they've stolen a march? I think there'll be multiple opportunities similar to that scenario throughout the season. So, was it a good opportunity? Yes, and obviously, particularly those that picked up like Sterling and Nicholas Jackson, and I'm still jury out on Chilwell, but like, he did pick up 7 points, which is not to be sniffed at if it's a long-term move as well. So I do think that there'll be multiple opportunities. And on the value of a transfer, the best answer I can come up with is, in isolation, is 15 points. I would say but I'm really be measuring, like, I wouldn't be measuring that too far. So on that experiment I ran last year, it was averaging out about like 16, 17 points. But at what's your end point of which you're going to use a transfer? I don't think you can do I switched. I think it was at the start of last season. You could switch Jesus after playing the Friday night game for Haaland, and then if you measured that to the point of the next overhaul, like, Haaland outscored them by 150 points. Are you telling me that like, you can't say that that's the value of that transfer? Or you could, but that's certainly not how I would think about it. And whilst my transfer planner was showing that the average was kind of 16, 17, very few of the transfers in isolation matched 16 or 17. There was a lot of low values in there as well. So I would say, I'd say 15. And I think there was another question came in as well, where it was, would I rather have 3 transfers in the bank or 30 points, which was similar, or I don't know if that was a follow-on from Julian's question or not, but I would rather have 3 transfers in the bank. If you offer me 45 and me thinking that the value of a transfer is 15, I probably wouldn't take that either, because I prefer to have the transfers later on in the season, and I think that they increase in value slightly over from start to end as well. But that would be a more difficult question for me.
I think the thing with like stealing a match as well is you haven't actually gained any additional fixtures by going all in on Chelsea. Apart from going in, if you went in the previous Sunday, you gained the Sunday one, but Chelsea lost 3-1 to West Ham, so there's nothing really gained there. So I don't think personally that a March has been stolen, because they've all had one fixture each. They will continue to have one fixture each now over the period of 4 weeks. They'll all play 4 games, whereas we know in the second half of the season there are real 4-for-1s, maybe even 5-for-1s. That's when you steal. That's when you get the gains, because the other teams just aren't playing, so they're not scoring any points.
Or ideally, you get a 4-for-nothing, so the player you're taking out can outscore that player exactly. Over that period of time. I think like the way I was thinking about this earlier on when I read the question was, if you're top of your mini league and you had your 45, like you're 30 points ahead, and you know that the person behind you's got 3 transfers on you, trying to hold on to that lead is much harder than trying to close the gap with the 3 transfers and the 30 points behind, in my opinion. And I'm going back to when I was when I first went top of the leaderboard last year, and it was a couple of weeks after with the Salah hat-trick against Man United, and that gut feeling when it closed, that elation of when I was closing down gaps was much, much higher, much wider on the scale of upside to low side in terms of how I was feeling. So I would rather have the three transfers in the bank. I'll always go back to it, if you make sure you've got an evolving plan and you see the route to the players that you want with the extra gains from the games, is my preferred way of playing it, and I've had success playing like that previously.
Thank you very much for all the questions on transfers. Really good stuff there. A quick look at the fixture calendar then, courtesy of FF Stuff. You can also check out Ian Parrin's fixture calendar on Fantasy Football Hub. Looking at the next few weeks, there's not many kind of fixture games per se. There are an odd 3-for-1 day chain you can do, but the only thing for me which really stands out are a kind of Forest's fixture. They've got this cluster of 5, haven't they? They've got a 5-for-3 over a lot of teams, which will essentially be a 7-for-3 if you include the captaincies potentially. What are your thoughts, Paul?
So on the fixture calendar, this was flagged by James on Planet FPL. So one of my areas that I'm weaker on, and that's fine, because and therefore I listen to other pods to get this information, is that I'm not too clued up on when fixtures can move to other dates and stuff like that. As I say, I just pick up the content from others, and that's the benefit, one of the benefits I get from listening to other pods and what I pick up. But because the Champions League draws on Friday, and depending on what calendar days teams are playing, there's some fixtures that could move. So that Newcastle fixture against Brentford on Sky game week 6, so the first game after the international break, could move. So there's a few things here as well. And again, another reason why I'm happy to hold on to my transfers, and even though Nana, who's massively disappointing at the moment, and pick up more information there. So there's that, and then I also agree with you on the Nottingham Forest point. I say I like the one at the end of last season, and I'm not going to cry over spilt milk, because everyone was in the same position. Everyone was put off having them because of the injury I had at the start of the season. But I think again, that's a prime opportunity to get them in on the Monday. And if I do make a couple of moves, I'm not restricted to move Colwell onto them. I want to make sure I've got some level of flexibility as well. So I could be I used a couple of transfers that week and then move towards that ultimate kind of overhaul team, if you like, of what I'm trying to build with my second move as well.
Yeah, those who moved on yesterday on City over, say, Arsenal players, Liverpool players will have started a run of 4-for-2s there, but obviously that then goes backwards over then. That then turns on Sunday the 24th of September. Newcastle are about to embark on a really good run. They got away to Brighton on Saturday. Then the following Sunday on the first weekend back, they're home to Brentford, and then they go Sheffield United, Burnley, West Ham, Palace, and they have really good fixtures there. But obviously they will have Champions League, so it's a really good point you made about holding on. But I think Sunday the 17th of September could be quite a popular day potentially to move to Pope, or the following Sunday the 24th. Again, he's going to switch probably with Onana, so it's like you're not really going to get this extra game at any point, do you really? But there are options there. Villa's fortunes change as well. Probably fair to say from Saturday the 30th of September. We're home to Brighton there, then they go Wolves, West Ham. They have some really good fixtures there. They look good.
If Martinez doesn't leave in the window and he's Villa's remains Villa's number one, I think he's a really good alternative as well that I would consider having a look and see when a hop on point was. You mentioned Arsenal's fixtures earlier on, and I agree with what you're saying on Saliba, so that makes sense. The one thing that was putting me off selling him is that there's not that many interesting defensive options, I think, this season, and particularly till Liverpool go on a good run and perhaps shore up. And I'm saying perhaps shore up defensively, then Van Dijk and Trent come back in the game. So that was, rather than their fixtures being good, which I'm definitely not saying, that was one of the reasons for not losing him. On a similar vein, the Saka debate on whether to lose him or not was interesting, and I think this was all stemmed from him, the perception that he'd lost penalty duties. So I went and had a look at the stats from last season, and Arsenal, Saka only hit 3 penalties in the Premier League last year and missed one of them as well. So if you take those points off his decent tally from last season, I'm not too sure. Now, look, if he's Arsenal playing differently at the moment, and I'd like a couple more games information, attacking wise, of whether he can post numbers like he was posting last year. So there's definitely an argument to that as well. But I just wasn't really keen. I know he takes up a bit of budget at 10.4. I just wasn't keen. And you'd mentioned that it was their defensive fixtures from a defensive perspective aren't particularly great. That's not to say that they're not good from an attacking perspective as well. So losing Saka is definitely not something that I'm considering, at least at present, until maybe I've seen him play 3 or 4 more games, and are they changing up the way that they attack based on how Arteta's trying to set up his team? If that differs, then I'll reconsider. But I'm pretty happy to hold, even though he holds quite a bit of budget at the moment.
But the thing with like Saka over Rashford, I think Saka holds a couple of things. He's on like corners and things, which is always good, and he's good for tackle bonus as well. So I do think he's and I expect Arsenal just to perform better and finish higher than United in the league. So I think Saka for me is a keep, even though I don't think the defense fix is that great. You still expect Arsenal to score a couple of goals in any match they play. Right? Maybe not against Man City, but anyone else. They're home to Man United, home to Spurs, the next 2. I don't fancy them for a clean sheet in either, but I fancy them to score a couple of goals in both. So. Chelsea's run goes on and on. Forest, Bournemouth, Villa, Fulham, Burnley, and then it toughens up a little bit, but a nice run there. Brighton have got a stinking run from now. Newcastle at home, Man United away, Bournemouth at home, okay, away to Villa, home to Liverpool, away to Man City. And I'm sat with 2 defenders.
So there's a question came in, and I think maybe you're best placed to answer it than I am on that basis, about whether losing a Brighton defender or even both Brighton defenders is a viable option at the moment.
Yeah, I think with Dunk for me, it's just a hold. I think he's one of these. I should have mentioned him earlier when you talk about the staples. I just put him in with Rodri, potentially Bissouma, Haaland, Colwill maybe, but just a staple in the team. You just leave him because you're going to want him back. And that's it. And that's the thing with someone like Dunk. You don't want to waste transfers going back and forth, especially when Dunk is likely to get passing in most of these games anyway. In terms of Estepine, he's been an interesting one because there were the comments from De Zerbi last week that he basically can play as he plays a second striker. So again, looking at Brighton, even though again I don't expect him to keep a lot of clean sheets in this period, I think there's still a lot of scope for him to get some attacking returns. And as you just said, I think you're right. There's not a lot of really attractive defensive options. So I think the only way I'm going to get rid of him is if it's for, is if an opportunity arises for a sudden option which comes up. Maybe Spurs defenders could potentially be one. They do have a couple of difficult games. They have 2 nice games left: Burnley, Sheffield United. Then they go Arsenal, Liverpool. Maybe after that they go on a good run again, Luton, Fulham, and stuff. So potentially one for them. But I'm not in any massive rush, as you kind of said at the start. I haven't seen enough of teams yet. I haven't drawn enough conclusions of the Chelsea defense, for example. The Man City defense, even, are they gonna? I think we think Diaz and Gvardiol will probably play most of them. Are we sure? No. Chelsea going to be good defensively or not? We're not really sure. A clean sheet at home to Luton is not really a clear signal of how they're going to do going forward. Spurs again was want to see a bit more. So, but Bissouma, for example, I've seen enough of Bissouma to know he's going to smash passing every single week and get tackles in some weeks as well. So, Brentford have some really good fixtures still, especially at home. Home to Bournemouth, away to Newcastle, home to Everton, away to Forest, away to United, home to Burnley. So Flecken and Buemo, I think if you've got him, I just hold him personally. Look really, really good.
Yeah.
Let me go further down. So, sorry,
I'll be interested. I'll be interested if for those that don't have Buemo, if they go a 1 year on the Monday after the international break, there's a single calendar days could move. But say we were locking in the dates of what things look like just now. I mean, I'd be comfortable just sticking with a 1 year for the Brentford single and not forcing a transfer, unless it was something that I wanted longer term, like Flecken in for Nana or Buemo for perhaps an underperforming player that I've got at that moment in time. But I wouldn't be as pressing to get Buemo in that scenario, and I'd be happy to captain a 1 year, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you go from Buemo, it's not, you shouldn't get him for the one game. I think it should be something you're looking to do. But I do think looking at him, he could be a player to get in for the medium term because their fixtures go on and on. So, I just realised I hadn't said hello to the chat. We're like over halfway through the podcast, but hello everyone. Windy's in as usual first. So I hope you had a pleasant long weekend. Big97 is in. Graham Craig says Paul McAnulty for the Hibs job. Andy Barnett, what would be your perfect back five going forward? Oof. That's a tough one. Any quick thoughts?
I've myself not decided on the keeper, but we've talked about it a bit just now. So let's say Flecken. If we're going long term, I'd have Saliba. I do think your comment has merit. In terms of daisy chain restructure, and then you take out a player that you don't want back to Saliba at whatever time that you're going to go back to him at some point. I think
I assume so.
Yeah, like Dunk, Diaz,
Spurs defender maybe.
Yeah, maybe Romero
or Van de Ven.
There's just so much. There's so much out and open just now. I like Schär as well. I think that Newcastle's fixtures are going to are really great after national break. So let's go Flecken, Schär, Dunk, Diaz, and
Saliba. You said
I'll stick Saliba, knowing that then you don't need to use a transfer to get him back in. But I'll go with that as my back five just now.
Julian Wardler's in, Ian Parrin, Matt Woolley, Bert Welsh, Joseph Robinson, John Acornley. Joseph asks, is Hal not as effective without KDB providing the bullets? I wonder. He could have easily scored a hat-trick yesterday. I don't know, obviously De Bruyne helps anyone, right? But, missed the penalty, and which he probably won't miss 90% of the time. Adam Byron is in, Aaron Alton, Martin Beasley, Glenn Murray. What an absolute bunch of rogues we've got on this chat this evening. Tom is in, Hornet, Michael Blackburn, Nidge Rid, Geo Boys, so many in. Thank you so much. FPL Matty, Win a Lot is in as well. Thank you so much, everyone. Just got a quickish slide called shopping list, of which you picked out 3 players, Paul, that have caught your eye.
Yeah, so I had Richarlison in my team, and I've watched enough of him now And so he was my make way for Rodri. I know Spurs have got a couple of good fixtures. He's just so frustrating to watch. And I know that when I come to the Spurs single game days, I'm going to want Maddison. I thought he was excellent. I think he's
what a footballer he is on the turn. My goodness me.
Different routes to points. He's going to smash shots in. He's going to get assists in. He's going to get goals this season. So with that in mind, I was happy to lose Richarlison. I made 13 points straight off the move anyway. So Maddison, I'm keen to get in. I mentioned the Wanya a few times and Diaby as well. Big fan of both of those. I think Diaby's been an incredible signing for Villa, and he's almost playing like a kind of 10 just in behind Watkins as well. So you can see him picking up shots tiers quite a bit this season, in my opinion. And they go on that amazing fixture run as well. How Europe changes, who gets game time and not, and whether Villa go back into the market. I know that Jacob Ramsey is due back from injury at some point soon, and it's not Leon Bailey. Buendia has that nasty injury as well, so you could see Villa potentially dipping back into the market and maybe a bit more rotation. But certainly at present, those three are very high on my shopping list. I need to sort my keeper situation, and that I don't have Bissouma either, and he's someone that I guess I'd be keen to look at and get in longer term. Spurs have a couple of Sunday games after the international break, so I might way off and pick him up at that point.
Speaking of Bissouma, so I'm going to probably, I think, move from Bissouma from Nakamba on the weekend. Obviously, Nakamba plays on Friday, and we've got this big game coming up on Friday, Luton against West Ham. So West Ham, I think, have probably surprised lots of people. Last two results, put in 3 past both Chelsea and Brighton. Some good wins there. I think they drew 1-1 with Bournemouth on the opening weekend. So they conceded in all 3. They've scored 7 goals, and 6 of them against 2 very, very good teams. Some interesting options there. I saw Areola made some incredible saves on the weekend against Brighton. I certainly wouldn't be going to a West Ham defender, though I think Areola, for example, could be. So I think he's 6.6 million, but he was incredible on the weekend. I think he retains that number 1 spot. And the other 2 we've got just on this slide, obviously Bowen got the goal on the weekend. Did you get an assist as well? I think you might have got an assist as well. He got 13 points. And Antonio is only 7.7 million, so it could be, an Antonio onto a Wanya potentially or something. But what's your thoughts on this game? Because my vibe from the Sky community is that obviously a lot of people have Nakamba engagement. Rightly or wrongly, we've got Nakamba because he hasn't really done anything yet. But even though he has got 3 tackles in both games, but yeah, what's your kind of thought? Because my vibe is not a lot of people are potentially tempted to go for a West Ham player, even though Luton haven't looked too good at the back. What's your thoughts?
Well, Luton's not played at home yet, and I think the atmosphere could be a bit hostile. It's a small park as well. It's not suited for teams hitting you on the counter. I'm listing reasons. I don't have Bowen, and it might sound like I'm listing reasons not to get him because I'm not going to have him. But I just, if it wasn't part of your plan already, if you've got an injured player or a suspended player, like if you've got Van Dijk and you've got a flexible formation, would I consider going Van Dijk to Bowen and then straight off onto someone else? And I know that's 2 transfers, but if you're going to get rid of Van Dijk, you're already using one anyway. So it's all about optimising player moves with limited transfers. Then I would certainly consider that. If I didn't have anyone, I think one of the questions, would I move Enzo on to Bowen? I personally wouldn't, because Chelsea play Forest and you're losing that extra game. And for me, if you've got Enzo just now, it's Chelsea have got good fixtures coming up, and it could be a long-term move. Like, you might just keep him there even after Chelsea's good fixture run as well. Especially if you've got Nakamba already, right? Nakamba's only got 3 goals and 220 odd career appearances, right? But it just feels like
Can you imagine?
This is not stats. This is not stats. This is not stats based or anything like that. So I would pick apart my argument from anyone that was listening. But do you not just feel it's got this aura this aura of a Nakamba's going to like score like from the edge of the box or something like that, just to really piss people off that have like made a move to bring in someone else, the captain over him, or take him out for the player that you're going to do it. It would just be like Sky, like the Josie Holebas goal against Middlesbrough for Watford in the 1-0 victory, or the
João Palhinha last year.
Yeah, or the João Palhinha against Nottingham Forest, or the what's the other one? Dallas. Mind who was Leeds playing that game?
Dallas,
Fulham or something like that. Hadn't scored in however long and pops up with a goal. It would just be like it to be that. But that's not what people should base any decisions around. But I just got that feeling that something like that could happen. But yeah, that would be. It's difficult because you know that Bowen could go off, and he's a great player. He is only 8.8 as well, so even they've got tough fixtures afterwards. So it might not even be if you did have Van Dijk and you want to get rid of him. I'm using Van Dijk as an example because we know that he can't play next weekend, and he'll still have a relative degree of ownership. That moving on to Bowen and then maybe even just holding then isn't the worst use of a move from a player you know can't get any points next weekend. But I mean, I just think that if I really wanted Bowen, we know Luton weren't going to be great, particularly defensively this year, but they are at home as well, so we don't know how their stats are going to hold up there. I personally wouldn't. And again, Friday press conferences come. If one of your players is out for the weekend, then maybe making the move to Bowen with that move would be my advice. When picking blanket, would he be the best captain on Friday? Probably.
Yeah, I think Ward-Prowse is a good shout in the chat as well from Tom as well. He's really good, Andy. I think there's maybe an argument. Remember last year towards the end of the season when there was a single Tuesday night game for Salah, and a lot of people just went straight to Salah and then kind of moved on. I think potentially if you're looking to maybe, if someone's looking to maybe move on, I don't know, like a Brighton defender, like I don't know, Estepinian, or if you've gone for someone else who you want rid of anyway, and you're thinking of moving on this weekend, there is a thing, you can go straight from Estepinian, go and hop onto Bowen or Ward-Prowse or whoever you want to hop onto, and then hop onto the player you're going to go on to Saturday as well. But I'm not getting rid of Estepinian yet because, like I say, I'm not. It's not really the way I play. This is kind of
not have another. Estepinian had another like 10 touches in the West Ham box at the weekend.
Yeah,
as well.
he had a blocked shot. Yeah, he's basically playing as like a second striker. I can't see him getting well, even more advanced than that. But I can't see him getting many clean sheets. But in these next 6, maybe like 1 or 2 potentially. But I still think that he's got a bit to offer. But yeah, I think I'll be leaving alone as well. It just doesn't fit in with the plan, even an evolving plan. It's even if like home to Man City, away to Liverpool, the next 2 for West Ham. If they had Burnley and Sheffield United, there's definitely an argument to go on and stay on and then daisy chain off. But there's not even that, right? So
I just think people I think that if their fixtures were kind of afterwards, I would have made the move when West Ham were playing Chelsea because you get the extra game previously, and nothing's changed for me in that time period other than West Ham looking good going forward. But yeah.
Looking ahead to the rest of the game week then, on Saturday, Sheffield United against Everton, Man City against Fulham, Chelsea play Forest, Burnley, Tottenham, Brentford, Bournemouth. Wasn't it great to have some really good 3 o'clock matches on Saturday? It was normally the teams that play in Europe and stuff don't normally play on them, do they? But and we've got them again this week. Those like City, Chelsea, Spurs, and Brentford at home, they're going to be really good 3 o'clock games. Brighton Newcastle 5:30 promises to be again a really real spectacle. I'm definitely going to watch that game. Ireland captain home to Fulham. Unless you hear any differently. I think I'll be going Nakamba to Bissouma. So that was part of the reason why I took Saliba out instead of another player, is because it released enough funds to make that move as well, and still have a bit of change to mess around with. But yeah, any other thoughts on the day?
Yeah, not for me. I just think it'd be too big of a gamble to go against Haaland.
Liverpool Villa on Sunday, Palace and Wolves, Arsenal Man United. Interesting captaincy day. You've got to think, I suppose, that it's a tough one actually. My kind of initial thoughts: Salah against Saka. Have you got any opposing views?
Yeah, I think our captain Salah. I think he'll be the clear favourite of the two. But I wouldn't advise anyone against going Saka if they did feel in their gut that he'd outscore Salah.
Tough one. Like after Liverpool's result yesterday, which I've got to be fair, like I'm not a massive fan of Liverpool, but what a result that was yesterday. That could be a season defining result, I think, couldn't it? I think if they'd have lost that.
You see the stat that Jurgen Klopp, like, that no manager has as good a consecutive win record against another manager in the Premier League as Klopp does against Howe.
No, he didn't.
Which you think in Ferguson's dominance at Man United that he would hold some crazy record. I think it was 12 games in a row that Klopp's beat Eddie Howe's side.
Wow.
Because remember that Newcastle were on the form last season and Liverpool beat them 2-0. That was at St James's as well, I think.
Interesting. Yeah, and then we have the break. So I suppose just as we head into the break, Paul, because there's not going to be probably much transfer or much fancy activity this week in terms of your position at the moment, probably between 20 and 25k with your transfers used. Are you satisfied with your start?
Yeah. Do I wish, like, I've seen that you are ahead of me by 16 points and have used the same number of transfers as me. So could it have been better? Yes. Could my have picks on the peripheral? Like, I would have played the game the same way. Yes, albeit I could have picked differently for the 2 or 3 players on the peripheral of the team that I wasn't going to captain and tick along nicely. Am I going to bemoan my luck too much on that? No. So yeah, I'm pretty happy how things are going.
Yeah, we all know that one player and 16 points at this stage at the end of it. You've gone through it yourself now better than anyone. Doesn't really mean a lot, right? It doesn't mean anything really now. So it's how you play over the season as a whole in it, which counts. So you missed hauls last year, missed big performances, missed players.
Yep. That
Salah haul could have forever holded us and stuff, but yeah, it doesn't really matter. It was only one. Estepinian over Richarlison was our difference. I know some others would have gone, Mbuemo or Mitoma or whatever else, but
Martinez.
Only one player.
But could have been Martinez.
It could have been Martinez, exactly that. Those who went to him have been extraordinarily unfortunate. Let's have a quick look through. Oh, sorry.
I've got a quiz question for you.
Go on.
It's not really fantasy related, and you may know the answer to it, but I didn't know the answer until yesterday. George Baldock from Sheffield United represents which country internationally, or do you know this?
I don't. Oh, do you know what? I heard them mention it on the radio. I heard them mention it. I just remember thinking at that moment, oh wow, I didn't know that. But for the life of me, I can't remember which one it was. Give me
Greece.
3 answers.
Oh, sorry, Greece.
Greece. That was it. Greece. It was one where you would
it's
never
like
have thought
random.
of. Yeah.
Very random. Made his debut at the age of 29 as well, and he's got 9 caps for them.
I'm assuming he's got a Greek grandparent or something, is he?
Yeah, Greek grandmother. That's right.
Wow, incredible. Yeah, I did hear that on the radio yesterday. Yeah, it was a bit of a what moment, definitely. Nice question, Paul. I like that. Just going through all the questions, we've answered most of them. A couple of people, Paul Sharkey and 1 or 2 others, Real Nidge Rid have asked about Pape Sarr for Spurs, 6.5 million. Looks a player. Wow, goal and assist now in his last 2 games. He does compete with Oliver Skip for that position, but he started the last 2 and he's looking good, and he's brought off early though. Is doing
and Bentancur's due back at some point over the next couple
he is a
of months
player.
as well.
He is a player. Yeah, I've noticed that in the last 2 games, because Sarr is quite a forward-thinking player. Once they've got the lead, He's been brought off twice for Højbjerg on about the 65th minute. So I think he's a
I feel that
I
feel if I got him, that I'd be tempted to use the budget that frees up.
Stuck with him then.
And then if something happens, which there's a good chance, say with Bentancur coming back or Skip getting a run in the team at some point, then it would take 2 transfers to get rid of him as well. That just doesn't sit well with me.
And the only other question that we haven't answered is of Adam Byron. How many transfers do you have planned between now and game week 12? I definitely haven't thought that far forward, but any thoughts?
I've had a look based on, like, try to wrap up Ian's question on the overhaul and where's the opportunities that I'd like to take advantage of, kind of for a fair few weeks after the international break. And I was thinking maybe like 6 or 7 good opportunities for players that I'd gain fixtures, or either cover a captaincy, or they have good fixture runs after getting a fixture gain out of them as well. So if I add that onto the 3 that I've used already, so maybe like 10-ish over 12 games. We know that for 40 game weeks, 50 transfers, so 1.25 transfers per week, that would keep me nice and under, like a good breathing space of under the average transfers that if you lay it out as 1 per game week.
Yeah, I've been tracking at 1 per game week at the moment. I'm going to use another one this weekend for Basuma, I think, so that'll be 4 in 4. I think the first one back is a Wanyi, first one back, so that'll be 5 in 5. So yeah, roughly 1 per game. I think game week 12 in Sky will be 11 game week. So yeah, probably between 10 and 12, I would probably say, which it feels about right around this ever, as you mentioned, this ever evolving plan, isn't it? But looking at it after that, looking at up until game week 12, there are no other, as far as I can see, dodgy single game days either, which helps.
Yeah.
Which helps, because the only reason we're going in on a 1-year, right, is because of the 2 single game days. But you've got Chelsea and Fulham, so most people are going to have at least 1 Chelsea player by then, if not 2, or even if not 3. And then looking after that, you've got Spurs and Fulham at the end of game week 11, which is a Monday night game. But you would maybe guess that people could have potentially jumped on Maddison or someone else, or a Spurs defender earlier on as well. So it's not that much call for captaincies. So yeah, 1 a week sounds about right, I think. On average, maybe. Good stuff, Paul. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who has watched and listened to us this week. Join us in the live chat. Brilliant to have you all in. Your continued support is much, much appreciated. Thank you, Paul. Where can people find you?
On Twitter at Paul McAnulty1, MCANULTY.
My handle on Twitter is at FFH_Fergi. If you like what you watched, please press the like button. Remember to subscribe in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen if you haven't already. And if you enjoyed your listen, please take 2 minutes. If you want to support the show and you listen on the podcast version, please take 2 minutes. Go on Apple Podcasts, leave us 5 stars, and leave us a nice comment. It would be much, much appreciated. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Obviously, international break next week, so we won't be back. We'll be back in 2 weeks, covering Sky Game Week 6. We wish you the very, very best of luck for Game Week 4. Enjoy the international break, and goodbye for now.